Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining again this week's edition of the WealthArc product webinar, where we present the newest features and newest enhancements and on anything that is happening on our platform. So today's edition is going to be a special one. Again, only special ones, of course, every other week. André will let you know a bit more about the content of today. As usual, please drop your questions and messages in the chat functionality on the right-hand side. And then, not sure if we'll use the full half an hour today, but yeah, it's the same as usual. Drop your questions. By the way, just some news from our side. Last week, the whole company was meeting up in our R&D office, which was really exciting. The whole team coming together, addressing and discussing the biggest challenges and things we want to achieve this year. So, of course, we all took a test beforehand, so it was all safe and secure. But yeah, that was very exciting. So more to follow there on what we want to achieve this year. But now let me hand over to André, so he will guide you through today's content and what you can expect.
Thanks a lot, Will. Can we move on to the next slide, please? As Will mentioned already, today we have a special guest. We have Sebastian Bryner and Marcel Brandle from ALPA 1, which will give you a real good insights on how you can make your assets, basically, especially on crypto, how you can make them work and how decentralized finance can generate income on your assets as well. That being said, they are part of our partner ecosystem, which I'll show you in briefly. Next slide, please. Most of you know already that we have a partner ecosystem in place, mainly with the partners which provide market services provider, market service data, but also our partner, which we had 2 weeks ago, Gen2 Digital, on our product webinar. And we're really happy that the partner ecosystem is growing and that we're evaluating more than 20 partners for the time being. So it's really great that we have all these partners, that we're creating this one-stop shop in the digital wealth space, also together with Open Wealth, the association I've shown you 2 weeks ago. And happy to present here Sebastian Bryner and Marcel Brandle, as already mentioned, and pass on to them. Thanks a lot.
Good. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Maybe on the next slide, I shortly want to introduce you on the agenda on the next slide. Quickly overview what we're talking today about. A very brief introduction to our team. Then I will bring everybody on the same level when it comes to blockchain, crypto space. At the next slide, I want quickly go through the challenges in the crypto space. Afterwards, we will heading directly into DeFi, decentralized finance, and how yield farming, that's a particular topic, can work. And then I will end up with a brief summary where we working on. So directly heading into the next slide, where quick introduction. So we are two tech guys. So that's Marcel Rappold and Markus, and then we have two financial guys. So that's Marcel Brandle and myself. Obviously, we have many Marcels with our size. We met first in January 2017. Fun fact: Bitcoin was back in the days then by $788. We truly believe in this technology. We kind of believer in this whole crypto space, and we also think in like 2030, the whole blockchain space revolutionized the whole space as the internet did back in the days. Then we, as our mission for ALPA, we want to participate and we want also to be part of this revolution. So quick introduction about crypto on the next slide, just to bring everybody on the same page here. As you all know, maybe the first block of Bitcoin was mined in 2019, so it was back in the days then invented, and since then there were no successful attacks to it. By design, Bitcoin is deflationary. It means there are just 21 million Bitcoins which will ever exist and not more. It's defined by code. the current market cap about the whole ecosystem. So not only Bitcoin is around 1.5 trillion, so it's a very tiny market. And we also have we see currently that Bitcoin is more and more broadly accepted. So also by companies. Recently, you just hear about the announcement of Tesla, MicroStrategy, and so on and so forth. So on the next slide, a brief introduction to what will be the challenges. So as you may know, to having in traditional finances, diversification due to negative interest is a challenge, especially for, I would say, private or the average people, average person. We see it, or my personal opinion is that inflation is an immediate risk. So when you see last year's money increase in the market, it's really become a upfront risk. We still have the whole crypto space is very volatile compared to traditional markets, but also generating passive income, so generating some yield on an asset in crypto space is very difficult and needs some very deep technical knowledge later on in that slide. And if I talk about yields more than 50%, everybody calls me crazy. Currently, because I think this market is so young, it's really possible in the whole crypto sector. So this leads me to the next slide for DeFi. What's all about this decentralized finance? It all starts with basically basic financial services which traditional banks provide, such as lending, borrowing, but also trading in a decentralized manner. This is all possible through smart contracts. So there's some logic power which can put on top of the blockchain. And the first introduction was with a decentralized exchange in 2017. This was back in the old bull run, but this wasn't so famous. Back in 2019, then there was a firm which introduced a new way of incentivize this whole ecosystem. And this was in 2019, where they create this incentive where it was really becoming interesting, this whole DEX, decentralized exchange space. Then in 2020 was the breakthrough with popular DEX exchanges like Uniswap or a lending and borrowing platform like Compound, where they really achieved the mainstream adoption, which led then to a DeFi summer, so-called. This was all possible through technical fundamental changes, so-called oracles, which were invented. So they were able to bring in non-blockchain information into blockchain, because there was a huge problem for the whole DeFi space, for example, bringing a simple price to the blockchain. By writing, the current market value locked in DeFi is around 39 billions in US dollar. On the next slide, I go a little bit deeper on that. And I would like to try to explain you how yield farming, so-called in the crypto space, is working. So the whole decentralized exchange working on a model called automated market maker. So this is basically the whole exchange logic is in a smart contract embedded on the blockchain, and does the automatic execution of orders. In order to do so, to do this execution, they need some liquidity to guarantee that the swap can happen between the two assets. These liquidities are provided in so-called liquidity pools. A liquidity pool is nothing else than basically, again, a smart contract on the blockchain which holds the assets which everybody can contribute to. Of course, when you trade on that decentralized exchange, it generates some fees which are way cheaper than on a centralized exchange, and these fees are then given to the liquidity provider. So when you bring liquidity to this pool, you will get then the trading fees. And as a user, when you want to swap some assets, you go to this exchange with your assets, then choose what you want to swap, pay these extra fees, and then you receive basically these assets. And on the next slide, I want to give a brief introduction of interesting things which are going on in that space. So there are very high volatile assets out there. So this whole space is not only for the big cryptos, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So also very small coins which have market caps with 10 millions, 20 millions, so really, really small. So there are also very high yields. You potentially see up to yields like 2,600%. I think 2,000 something is the max I've ever saw. Of course, I know about it. You should be very careful in being in that space. But as mentioned, you see in that whole liquidity providing pool, you see everything. So everything from low cap, mid cap, big cap, and very interesting also stable coins. So stable coin, which is, for example, pegged to US dollar. Then you have the liquidity pair, Bitcoin, pegged US dollar, which is interesting. And I drop you some names here. The first one is ALPA. They're doing quite interesting. What they do actually is providing leveraged yield farming. So in order to maximize your liquidity yield, they you bring them your cryptos, then they go and loan some more cryptos with yours, and then provide that to a liquidity pool. So you have kind of a leverage. Avalanche, the second one, is quite big when it comes to lending and borrowing. They introduced their service back in the summer last year, and they have yields. So basically lending and borrowing yields, I think, up to 12-15%, if I'm not mistaken. Then the Uniswap, that's that big exchange, decentralized exchange on Ethereum. I mentioned it previously, 2019 introduced a very deep cooperation with Ethereum Foundation itself. And they have, I think, the biggest asset pool when it comes to trading. So everybody can go there and say, I want to create now a new pool of assets to trade. So a new pair, and you can just introduce it. And Mirror at the end, for me, just interesting. What they offer is a decentralized exchange which offers stock trading. So they have assets which are pegged to a traditional stock like Tesla, Apple, what else. And there as well, you can also do liquidity mining on that traditional assets like stock. I can maybe explain in a later stage how exactly this works. Maybe blows here the form. On the next slide, very briefly, I want to touch on what we are doing now in that space and what's our vision. So we think everybody should be able to invest in crypto, and this in a diversified way, so that nobody should tackle with, okay, how exactly do I have to allocate my portfolio and so on and so forth. And so that everybody can participate on the massive capital gains, which my personal opinion is possible in that space. And the most important for us is to make it possible for everyone to generate passive income. So meaning participant on this whole DeFi and yield farming space, and also give them an interesting fee way of having an attractive yield risk ratio. So that they always aware of what's the risk, but also what's the potential reward. Of course, we still walking around in the crypto assets, which is per se some maybe risky assets. The idea is that all the assets we never touch, so we will never be a custodian service. So that also here to be fully decentralized. So the user brings their assets to the smart contract, to the Ethereum blockchain, and then does the magic there. So it will never, and then he gets rewarded in some holding tokens. So he always the owner of that assets, and we of course never touch them. Then for me, very important, we want to be very transparent, meaning it should be clear how the products are working and the fee structure to pass that as clear as possible. And I think the key is to have a very user-friendly fiat ramp-up, so that is as easy as possible, that user can come from the traditional world and go into the crypto space. There are many companies out there which are already heading out exactly in that direction. Then on the next slide, I want to present our POC. Unfortunately, we cannot open the link, so that's why I have to do it a little bit differently. Our POC, so we always start small. So proof of concept is basically to introduce the smart contract, which will just do the whole asset management on the blockchain. So held the assets, and you can add more, you can remove them. And there will be, of course, a nice front end looking for which does the whole interaction with that smart contract. That front end will be, of course, centralized in the first step, but the whole logic behind it, so really where the assets are held, are from day one decentralized. That's a typically approach with this kind of technologies, but everybody could then interact with our smart contract on the blockchain, and our front end is not required. The mockup in the link shows basically the idea, where it should be very simple. You coming to the start page, you have just one button which says you want to invest. You have to connect your wallet, so kind of your bank account, be it my MetaMask, be it Coinbase wallet, you name it. And then you can choose the amount you want to invest. We will start with native currency, means Ethereum, because we have on the Ethereum blockchain. You choose the amount you want to invest, you click on invest, you release your funds, and then it's on the smart contract. That's all. And what's our main goal is then have a nice, good looking UI around it. So where you can track your allocation, where you can track your performance, all that needy, greedy, beautiful stuff. Good. Sorry for having that presented by voice. On the last slide, we unfortunately already at the end, short wrap up. So we want to make it, the DeFi space is enormous. There is many ways to participate on this DeFi space. Currently, it's very complicated. It's very hard to go into that space. And we are sure there will be in the couple of months, several new ideas popping up how to make it available. And I would like to open the round for questions, where also Marcel Brandl will support me.
Thanks. Question? Yes, you can see the chat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is yield farming the same as staking? In principle, not. So there is kind of a mix of it. What I described today, yield farming, is really this liquidity provisioning. So you go to a decentralized exchange and you provide liquidity. In order, when you did that, you receive then your liquidity tokens, which is kind of the proof that you did this investment, right? And you can then even stake this liquidity tokens. Maybe a little bit too far. This mostly done by some protocols to incentivize some asset pairs. So for example, if there is an asset pair which is not enough liquidity, or there should be more liquidity, they create this kind of incentive so that the liquidity providers get an extra reward off top of it. But the traditional staking, which comes from the consensus mechanisms when it comes to operate the blockchain. So as you all know, Bitcoin is working with proof of work. So you have to do some solve some random mathematical problems to generate the next block, and proof of stake comes from this part, where it's, instead of computing power, it's stake. So how much of these assets you can hold, you can then vote to the consensus of the blockchain. And typically that's meant with staking, so validating a proof of stake blockchain. As such, Cardano will be, for example, or the next Ethereum iteration, or there are many out there which already achieved this.
Thanks a lot. Then see, there's no more questions. Thank you very much, Sebastian and Marcel, for being here. So just let me wrap up quickly. It's really interesting what you presented here now, that we have alternative yield opportunities nowadays, and especially that they also can be pegged to stable coins like traditional assets or traditional stocks, as you said. And for our customers here today, I think it's important to understand that with partners, especially if they might be very disruptive, like ALPA One, which is very interesting in my opinion, and together with the WealthArc platform, we can bridge the gap between traditional asset allocation, as we're doing it now, in traditional wealth management, and the crypto space. Which is why, if you have any other questions regarding the proof of concept and then the mock-up, which Sebastian wanted to show, please let me know. Then we can set up the contact. And if you have questions how we can integrate it onto the WealthArc platform as well, so that you have the data available, just feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you there. That being said, I'll hand over to Will for concluding words. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, not much more to add from my side. Thank you, Andre, for the quick wrap up. As said, reach out to your person of trust within WealthArc if you want to have further insights into the cooperation with ALPA, or if you have any other insights or questions anytime. And if that is not the case, then I will welcome you again in 2 weeks' time, happily, on the 24th of March, same time, same day, with a new exciting topic. And until then, have a great time, stay safe, enjoy the spring weather, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.